Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
Hello everyone, how would you like to achieve the first million in sales? And today we have Anita joining us from United States. So Anita, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, so my name is Anita Petty. I'm the author of the book Money Switch Yourself Onto Happiness, Health, and Wealth. And I also have a second book called Your Next Level Success and Mastering the Foundational Skills to Achieve Any Goal. So very versed in the topic, I think, today, and I hope people will enjoy this conversation today.
Yeah, so tell us, why did you decide to become an entrepreneur? What's your story?
Well, I don't know. I kind of think, I was kind of born with the desire. I grew up in a rural area. I was born in the 1960s in a small, actually not even in the town, outside of a town called Prescott, Arizona, which is in the American Southwest. And I was born to a family of farmers and cowboys that rode the range. And so I had three older brothers, and my family was fine, but I always kind of didn't stick out. They always used to joke and say we brought the wrong baby home from the hospital because the guys would always want to be out. They were cutting wood and hunting and all that. I had my nose stuck in a book, and I said, there's got to be more than, the Southwest. Now, as I get older, I really appreciate where I came from and the roots and going back there. But I got to tell you, I was just a little bit bored as a child. So as a child, I had some pretty big goals, and my brother said, well, what do you think you're going to do? And I said, back then, and I think it's because I had some goals. As a child, I think, I wanted to do something exceptional. So in my we had a little black and white TV, and television in those days, if you're poor and you don't have, we had a hand-me-down black and white screen. And we had a physical antenna, and we got two stations. So you literally had to change the direction of the antenna to get the other show.
Oh,
And so
wow.
that was a window on the world. So I saw like things like in my day, Marlon Perkins did Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. And I don't know what you have in the UK, if you have like shows on the African savannah, but I always dreamt of going to the African savannah and seeing the lions and tigers and giraffes and all that stuff. So I said, someday I'm going to have enough money and do things. So I go there. And then I said, okay, well, I want a nice car. And I couldn't imagine. So I just said, I want a Mercedes, because no one could imagine. We all had old trucks, broken down trucks and stuff. And then I said, at some point, I'm going to make $1 million. And they just laughed and just said, yeah, right, keep dreaming. So those were my goals, but eventually, I accomplished all those goals. Not only did I go to the Serengeti, and I spent 2 weeks on the Serengeti walking with the Maasai. We did a tour down through, and we did a hiking tour, walking tour. But 2 years later, I went and climbed Kilimanjaro, which for me, and I have some health
Wow.
issues, that was kind of, I was around 50, just at 50, and yeah, it's not a technical climb, but it's like walking 38 miles uphill. Just keep going, keep going. So yeah, and I think that's the big thing in accomplishing anything. And if you want to do stuff in life, is to have those goals, to set goals early if you can, and never forget those goals, because you always need, on those bad days or things things don't go right, you want to have that to press you onward and encourage you to keep going.
Yeah, we always said that the entrepreneur, there is something big inside us that we don't know what is it, but we just are wired like that. And one maybe just a little thing like a TV show or a book can give you this inspiration, can feed this
Right.
energy that you have within to do something different, right? And but one thing is to have the goal, the idea, and actually the other one is I'm going to do this. So how's your journey? Do you have a job before? Or
Yeah.
not?
Well, I
Or
didn't quite
how?
answer your question. I didn't quite answer your question. You said you talked about entrepreneurs. So what did I do? So I started small, And my father was a cowboy on the range. He used to literally,
Mhm.
he would drive cattle, and then he was in the local rodeos. And when I was 6 years old, he broke his shoulder, and then he could no longer ride and compete.
Oh,
So he
wow.
ended up learning to be a carpenter. And he didn't make a lot of money, but the money he did have, he would always come home Fridays when he got paid, and he would give me his spare change. So I would take the spare change and I would put it under my bed. And then one day my mom looked and she was amazed because I had this huge pile of pennies.
Wow.
And the pennies, she made me roll them all up. And then I said, hey, if I can do this, maybe I can do some other things. And so I would collect aluminum cans and turn them in. And eventually I had like $348 in my savings account. And so
Wow.
I just said, if I can do this, okay. So I did some things like we raise rabbits for food, like domestic rabbits for food. But I would tan the tails and take them to school and sell them to the kids, and the kids would give me their lunch money, a whole
Wow.
$1.50. But I got in trouble for that, of course. But I was the little
In
entrepreneur that said,
trouble with whom? With your parents, with the school teachers, with whom you got in trouble?
well, it was the playground aide, the lady who watched all the children, because they kept coming up to her and saying, "Isn't this pretty?" And they're like, "Where did you get that?" And so I was just told, "Oh, you can't do stuff like that." So I always had this drive to do something more, and I just said, "Okay." So education, I thought, is coming from really a rural area. I remember before the internet, and I know there's a lot of people that can't imagine how did you learn things before the internet? And I had a 1952 set of Encyclopedia Britannica
Wow.
hardbound books with little bitty type. And I was like, that was my window on the world. And I just said, there's got to be something more. So I want to see the world. So I don't want to go too long with this, but so eventually I did have mentors, and that's a big thing in my encouragement of people and people I counsel is that you have to have mentors and people that are doing what you want to do. But I had mentors along the way in school that helped me. And they said, if you want to see the world, you've got the brain for it. So why don't you look at going to one of the United States military academies? Because in those days they were just accepting women. And so my sixth grade teacher was probably my biggest cheerleader. And I was this kid that just never spoke to anybody. He said, I put you on the spot for a reason, to make you get up, because I know you can talk to people. I know you can say things, and you're headed for bigger things and you just don't know it. But I think this would be a place for you. So I always had that in the back of my mind. Maybe I could do something like that. And sometimes people say, oh, yeah, you can do this. And then other people goes, oh, you can't do that. And remember, keep those dreams alive, because that one did come true, and that opened a tremendous, tremendous opportunities to me in the world. Career, was in the Navy for 15 and a half years.
Wow.
And best of that, I had planned to retire, but my career was cut short by cancer. But it's a good story because 22 years later, I'm still here. So, you never know where life is going to go. And that's why when it sends you these curveballs, and I've had plenty of them, and I'm sure you have too,
Mhm.
uh, you just keep going. You just keep going and try and figure out what you want to do in life. So that kind of gives you an idea. I got out of the military mid-career. I was 36, I think, and I ended up recuperating for 2 years. And then I started a new company from the ground up, and of all things, digital dentistry. Didn't know a thing about dentistry, but I knew, and I had a background in computers, and I knew how to set up systems, and I had a couple of degrees behind me. So I just used my know-how and just said, okay, fall back on what you know and build it one piece at a time. And that's what we did. And eventually, 2.5 years later, it got sold to a Fortune 100 company. And so that was a huge thing. But,
But to build a
really,
tech company, this is
yeah.
being a woman in United States and build a tech company. This is no an easy
Um,
to do. So, do
yeah.
you think that the discipline and some things that you learn in the military help you
Oh,
to?
undoubtedly, undoubtedly. Yeah, because the things that the training I had been through, and I had been through some what was referred to as a prisoner of war training, and
Wow.
because when I went back for another tour, which was they had allowed women in combat by then. So there was a potential for you to get captured by the enemy. And this is during I guess it was the former Yugoslavia, the Serbian
Mm-hmm.
pain and things. So there was a chance of, having to get in harm's way there. And so the things that they teach you that are real life, and I just know, even in my cancer, I said, I got through that training, so I know I can get through other things. And I just look back and said, you can do this. You really can do this. So
Training is hard, right? It's
well,
difficult.
the training was hard. In my era, it was very difficult for women to break in because there was not a lot of support. They were getting only a quota number of women through the academies, and we weren't welcome. There's very different there now, as I understand from the ladies that are there now. But we were in many respects, the people who broke a lot of new ground. And in fact, when we go to our reunions, some of the young ladies come up and say, "Oh, you were the trailblazer. Thank you, thank you, thank you." And so that's, there's a lot of stuff there. But anyway, whatever your struggle is or whatever you're going through in life, just realize that, maybe it's a struggle or maybe you failed somewhere along the way, but those are some of the best teachers in life. And when you take those and you turn them into something good, because, you say, hey, yeah, I went through that, but I survived it. You know what to do and what not to do next time. And that really builds character, and you can build on that, and you can build your business for the future on that. So yeah, I would say lots of experiences, not just the military, but, having different diverse experiences, trying out different businesses, seeing what works, and just being a lifelong learner has tremendously helped me to move forward in my endeavors.
And then when you started your first business, the tech company,
Mhm.
and you start to find the clients and to develop the product and so on. So where do you learn about customer acquisition, about marketing, about sales, about product development, about all these skills that the entrepreneur need to have in order to move a tech company forward and to
Mhm.
sell it to a 514 company?
Oh my goodness.
Where do you learn all this? Because in the military you don't learn any
You
of that.
don't,
So
right,
what
well,
happened? You keep reading books?
no, so the thing is that, oh my goodness, all the things I didn't learn in the military were starting to hit me front and center, and marketing, and even being a leader, because in the military, the leadership is very different. There are very defined rules, and if people break those rules, you go,
Understand.
broke the rule, you're in trouble. Here, when you deal and especially even in, today's world, it's even more difficult. You're dealing with diverse personalities coming from diverse cultures. You need to learn all of that. I will tell you, it was eye opener. And then what I also realized is I didn't realize this initially, because it was like 3 years of building every day and just working around the clock to keep that business going and to have people believe in us. But when I went and finally corporate said, when we were acquired into corporate, well, I was the person running things behind the scenes, but I was really kind of the quiet person that ran things. And they didn't really ever talk to me. So when they showed up at our doorstep, they go, "Who are you?" I said, "Well, I kind of run." And I realized after I got to see, and they took me in and showed me what happens in the corporations. And I know my new boss was in manufacturing. And the first day I sat down with him and he said, well, what did you learn today? What's different about your world and what we do here in corporate? And I said, well, I counted them and there's 12 or 13 people that do what I do. And he just kind of smiled and he goes, yeah, you're going to find that is that you have to be a master of a lot of things. You have to learn quickly on your feet. And because, when you're dealing, oftentimes when people are entrepreneurs and they're starting out in new businesses, you don't have the capital necessarily, or the time, or the resources to sit there and build. You need to have that product out the door and prove the product and make the product the best it can be. And then you can go and build. And the funny thing is, when one of after they had decided to buy us and do this acquisition into the corporation, one of the guys that came in, and he was in marketing, he goes, "You know what I like about you guys? You guys don't have the fancy chairs or office spaces, because we would go to secondhand stores and places, our roof wasn't finished.
Of
It was
course.
just enough because we were just, he goes, you guys are putting your emphasis on the right things, the technology, because our machines in those days, and we were doing computed tomography, the industrial machines were 2 million a piece.
Wow.
And so that's where all of our money went, that for resources and for people and hiring the resources. So, everything from human resources and hiring, that stuff I never had to deal with. And I will tell you, there were days where I just said, that's it. I'm tired and I want to quit. But I remember then one of our leaders said, well, what happens if you quit? Just think about that. You're going to go home. What are you going to do? Probably not a whole lot. And you're not going to forgive yourself because you have 16 people down on your floor right now that depend on you for a livelihood.
Exactly.
And so you have other people's, and it's not only them, but their families and extended families. And he said, think about that for a second before you go and feel sorry for yourself and say, what about it? Because we had a customer that was demanding, but because our products that we were creating, we were literally creating them as, we set up the business. We were doing our digital piece. We were making digital models and then trying to adapt those to what's needed in the market. And so there was no precedence for any of this. Today, it's kind of, people have this kind of stuff now, but then the software wasn't there. So literally we were hiring software people to make these changes on the go. And then I'm there for hours on end after hours, redoing some product because it was all digital, right? And just making sure and asking, was it
software developers always have been expensive, yeah?
Yeah, so you have to get it right, and there's no time. So time is of the essence. Getting it right, understanding the customer's needs, and really focusing on the right things of your business is so important. And I think these are timeless. Things that
So how do you
can go
manage,
back.
Anita, to get some funding or to take this off the ground?
Well, we did have one of our companies out of Los Alamos, New Mexico we didn't go to venture capital. We actually had some people that had invested in the technology and they had invested in us. And we had, I was married at the time, so my husband and I had invested some funds as well. And I didn't pay for a while, which I later found out was not the way you do business in corporate. I didn't take a paycheck. And I know you see somebody like on Shark Tank, you see people go, I don't pay myself. Well, you really do need to pay yourself.
Yeah.
So I didn't take a paycheck for 2 years. So,
Wow.
but I didn't need to. I had other resources. I had other funds coming in and things. So, yeah. So I think the thing is that people are looking for venture capital. That's a whole nother thing. I've seen it in other businesses. And I'm glad we didn't have to do that because oftentimes when you go to venture capital firms, they have an idea of how they want things run. Of course, it's their money that they've invested.
Of course.
So you really need to, understand what you're getting into and understanding, do you control some of the things or does somebody else? And can you live with that? Because part of this is being happy at what you do. And if you're not happy doing what you're doing, I'm not saying that every day is a cakewalk and you're all excited every single day, but you have to enjoy what you do. And I think that's the biggest thing. If you don't see a reason to be there every day and that you're building and creating something and you're creating value for, whether it's for our society, for yourself, for investors, whatever it is, you have to have a driving why of why you're out there and you're doing what you do.
Let's talk about the resilience of the entrepreneur, because at the end of the day, right? Sometimes you feel that, oh my God, this is too much. I cannot take it. I cannot take it anymore. I have so many people that I'm responsible. I wish that I'm free. I wish that I let that go. Remember our first business? We did a property business. We sold 5 million, and we have a large operation, a lot of tenants, a lot of clients, people up and down, right? And I remember that I was responsible for literally everybody, like hundreds of clients, all the employees, the office, the printer, you name it, right? And sometimes you think, can I keep taking this, right? But the good side of it is that when it works, it's amazing.
Right. Yeah.
Oh my God! When we went to a point that I was not needed in the office anymore. My staff were telling me, "Harry, go home. We got your back. You don't need to come here anymore. We set the the company is fine. We know how to handle everything. Don't even come here. We don't need you." That's amazing, right? So how out of that pressure and out of this time that I didn't get paid that much myself either when I was building the company, but at the end of the day, the reward is amazing when the things work, right? And I'm surprised that you even can handle a training in the military, and even you build your company and you still thinking that there were days that you feel like, oh my God, I cannot take this anymore. It's way too much. But you breathe in, you breathe out, and you change the approach. I always share with the entrepreneurs this, right? The only thing, a lot of people say they don't give up, don't give up, don't give up. Okay, yes, you have to be resilient, and you don't give up. However, if you keep repeating the same thing, you're gonna have exactly the same result, and it doesn't matter how much you don't give up. If you don't change your approach, it's gonna be tough, because, and this is the difference between keep going, right? And sometimes some entrepreneurs get lost in the path that you keep going and going and going and going and going with the same idea, the same concept, the same thing, and it's not working, and they get too attached to it that keep going to the same strategy, and it doesn't matter that you don't give up, but if the strategy is not correct, you are in the wrong track of the road, and it's not gonna work, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, you just can't keep doing the same thing. I think it's the agility and resilience to do and to realize that you're creating. When people would come to me and going, "Are you making this up?" And I'm going, "I sure am." And I was absolutely honest about that, because there are some things we would try, some new things. We had some issues on, for example, with one of our machines that had some kind of digital artifact, and it was making it so that it was not creating a model correctly. And we had a young man he had a high school education, and he came up to me one morning. He was so excited, and he says, "I figured it out." And I go, "What?" He goes, "We've had that problem, and we have all the engineers scrambling to figure this out." And he goes, "Do you know what the answer is?" I go, "Oh, no, 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 tell me." He goes, "Hairspray." And I go, "What?" Well, he figured out, and I won't bore people with the details and the science of this, but he figured out a boundary condition by putting a layer of hairspray ever so slightly that changed a little bit of things, but did not change the actual
Wow.
form of what we were scanning, but allowed us to scan it with no artifact and to be perfectly good, and it was within accepted boundaries. And the PhDs were amazed, and they go, "What did you use?" And so they're all wanting to know, and we said we call it RAS, our radio opaque spray. And I'm thinking, this is somebody, and he was so proud. And we had he got special recognition in the
That's
company
amazing.
for yeah. So when you do that, so it's like having the agility to listen to your people, to try new things, to go, "You know what, we've tried this for 6 months and this isn't working. Are we going to bang our head on the wall there and just say, let's just keep trying harder? Or are we going to realize that we're not right in this and we need to do something and pivot and do something new?" And I think that takes a lot of courage, because that pivot could mean funding and lots of money. But the other thing is to use your brain and figure out, hey, I've been in some bad spots in the past. You call on your team, whoever you have, and just say, "Do you got any ideas?" Because oftentimes the people that can
The
best
people
help,
can have the solution, right?
and they're not necessarily people with high degrees. These are
Of
people that
course.
we had people that were, they had high school degrees or maybe a couple of years of college, but they were good at video games, and they could do a lot of digital cleanup of models and things and do things. And they were very, very fast. Where we had some people that, one lady came to us and she says, "I've got a master's degree. I think I can do this, but can you give me a try?" I said, "I think it's, that's probably not a good fit for you, but if you want to try, great." She ended up just saying, after 2 weeks, she said, "I'll give you your money back." And I'm leaving. I said, "I'm sorry, it's not allowed. We pay you for what you were here." She goes, "But this is not for me, because I can't do it and have all these kids doing all this." She said, "I just realized I said, "I know you have the know-how. It has nothing to do with how intelligent you are. It's a skill and an understanding." And so that's the other thing is, do you have the right skills? Do you have people skills or technical skills, or do you have to hire in somebody that has a little bit different idea? And some of those people that I remember, when I got into corporate, they used to laugh at me because I would talk about AI and the future of using robots and mini robots to do
Wow.
things, do manual processes. And this was years ago, but I just remember they just all kind of like snicker under their breath. And I'm like, the manufacturing director corporate didn't snicker, because he knew that someday maybe that would come true. And of course, so what are we seeing now? So there's a lot of these little ingenious things, but it's, you have to have that resolve that, yeah, people aren't going to like your ideas necessarily. They might think you're crazy, but do what's in your heart, but also know that, does it fit the confines of your business? Does it fit what you're doing? Do you need to step out and do something bold and change where you're going? And how you handle that is dependent on the culture of your business, because every business is different in how they accept that or handle that. But maybe go and talk to some people that within the business and say, hey, what if we did this? And sometimes your colleagues will come up with some things that you can jointly present if you're not the head of the company. But if you're the entrepreneur, listen to your people and try out some of those things. Maybe not spend a whole lot of money on stuff, but say, well, what if we did that, and walk down that? But don't walk down so far you end up through a rabbit hole that you can't get back. So I think there's so many ways, but it's the mindset. And I think that's the biggest thing, is having the mindset to go, yep, today was really bad. Tomorrow's probably not going to be better, but guess what? We're going to get through this, and we're going to make this product, and we're going to make it work. Don't know how yet, but just having that mindset, because when you're standing there, and I think this in your business, all the eyes are on you, because they're going, is this person going to come through for me? Are they going to support me? Whether or not you're so visible, and your words matter, and what you say to them matters, and how you present yourself matters. It's also important. So being an entrepreneur is not easy, but as we all know,
and it's
right?
not for everybody.
Yeah, it's not for everybody,
Not for
but
everybody.
yeah, it's because it's sort of being everything. The solopreneur is, being the solopreneur, you start out that way. But my feeling is that if you're the solopreneur too long, you will burn out and you won't survive. So making sure that you build the business, you build the team behind you as you go, and it grows with you. And I mean, the day they say, so long, we don't need you anymore, we've got this. I mean, it may take years. Hopefully it doesn't take 2 months, but it's a journey, and that's for sure.
And then, Anita, what are the 5 steps to make your first million?
Well, so I'm the type that has done things consistently over the years, and I started when I was 5 years old with ideas. But when you think about, they're very they're not some grandiose things, but you start by setting goals. And I think everybody knows, okay, everybody talks about setting goals, but having those defined goals and things that you can reach, the milestones you can reach, are so important to have those, and to be checking on those and say, did I make it? Did I not? And it doesn't have to be something that you've got to look at every single day, but you have to have those goals in mind, come back and visit them and say, if I'm not making them, then whether you need to change things, pivot, or do things. The other thing is, they don't teach you. I often run into kids, even today. I ran into a kid at a hardware store, and I asked him he says, I'm going to school to study finance. And I said, oh, well, what do you want to be? And he says, well, I want to be an entrepreneur. And I go, that's great. So where are you going to learn that? He goes, oh, I'm going to learn that in school. I said, well,
Good luck with that. Yeah.
at least in the United States, what financial intelligence is, there's a few places that now are starting to teach some of that, but they don't teach you how to be successful in business like this. And I said, and I asked him, I said, who do you have around you that can help you? And he goes, well, I don't know. I was planning on school to do that. And I said, do you have any mentors? And he goes, oh, I don't know. I said, what does your mom or dad do? And he goes, oh, my dad runs a air conditioning business. And I said, has he done that long? Oh, yeah, for 20 some years. And I said, okay, there's your mentor. Sit with him, learn what he does, because he is the #1 mentor, because the skills he will teach you, you're going to, no matter what it is you do in business as an entrepreneur, he's going to teach you some fundamental skills. And he hadn't really thought about that. So that, the next thing is having a mentor. So surround yourself with the people that are doing what you're trying to do, or have the traits that are successful and can get you where you want to go. So that's really an important thing. And of course, the big one is taking action. I mean, if you don't, because people go, oh, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, but then they don't do anything. And so I have this little sign that sits up on my monitor that says, be 1% better each day. And if you do 1%, and it's not 365% by the end of the year, if you think 1%, 1%, it's, it compounds, it's much more than that. But if you even did 1% better every day, by taking action and doing something towards your goal, it would be amazing how far you're going to get if you do that. So, I can't stress that enough, because, and people, they did a study several years back of people on their deathbeds, and they asked them what they most regretted in life. And most people didn't say they regretted what they did. it's what they didn't do. And so I feel you'll see a lot of people that are that way. I also work in the financial advisory industry. I work in insurance, health and life insurance. And I see so many people that tell me that, I wish we would have done that. I wish my dad would have set up his trust. I wish. Well, don't be wishing, just do it. Let me step back a bit. So another thing that people can do is, create that, I know people call it vision, and your eyes glaze over when you create a compelling vision where you want to go. But the reason that's so important is to know and to create that is because when you're explaining to people what your business is and where you're, and the amount of energy, they feel your passion. And if you come in there and say, yeah, today, guys, we're going to make the best machine in the world that's going to do everything, how far are you going to get? I mean, they want to see that you're enthused, you believe in the product, and that, so if you can
Your
create a
leadership skills, right?
yeah, so it's not like writing that mission statement, and because I know people go, oh yeah, I know mission statements, I hate mission statements. No, it's creating a vision for yourself, knowing what that is, and being able to articulate it in simple terms so that people don't have to sit there and listen to you drone on for half an hour, but just to say, here's where we're going, guys, and this is why I really love what I do, and just feel the passion and be passionate about what you do and let them see that. So that's important. So I think that rounds out the things that I think are most important when you're making that first million, and just keep going. And my millions didn't happen overnight. I did a lot of
Neither my ones.
yeah. So part of it was doing the digital dentistry, and I got a portion of that, but some of it was in investing. I taught myself stock trading and options trading, and then I eventually took a professional course to understand. Never traded for another person, and never got a securities license to do it for others, but I learned for myself, so I understood the markets. I understood a little bit about what's going on out there, stocks and bonds, and interest rates and how those things. So just, I mean, those things are so important, to just keep the learning going up and understanding what's going on.
Yeah, Anita, let's talk about this, because the other day happened. I agree 100% with you in something, because the other day I happened to me. I was invited to speak an event, and the previous speaker was speaking. You could tell, right, that there is a lot of people teaching business, right? That they learn this by the book, and there is nothing wrong with that. However, when an entrepreneur listens to this person, can identify that this person never run a business itself. Entrepreneurs, we speak a different language. We actually done it. We know what is inside out. And even with the same thing with the people that have make $1 million, by the way they talk, by how they conduct yourself, if you have make $1 million, you will know if that person have made it or not, right? And there is a lot of things that we see in the coaching industry. Also, the people helping business how to grow, coaching and mentoring, right? But sometimes it's a flaw, because they are teaching and coaching in something that they haven't achieved themselves, right? And
Yeah.
and this is some of these ads that you can see there. Oh, you can make $1 million doing this. You can make $1 million doing that. This is so easy. This is the short path. And a lot of people, I think they fell into that because they want to have the shortcut, right? They want to avoid that necessary process. Same with you. I one of the business that I did here, I opened a restaurant in here in London, and I lost 2 years of my life, and 200,000 pounds. Yeah, I say that I lost, right? If you take it negative, but the truth was that this was the best business school that I ever have, because when things are not working, yeah, you can hit the jackpot in your first business. It's easy to find the client, you're making a lot of money, and you think that, oh, business is easy. But when you pick a tough one and you try to make that one work, this is where the real learning comes. So yeah, so sometimes I say to the people, listen, if you want to learn about business rather than spend 60,000 in MBA or something, yeah, open a restaurant, you will see. Open a restaurant in London or United States, you will see how quickly you're gonna learn about business, because boy, you need to learn about handling people, customer service, sales, waste, a whole operation go, that is the best MBA that anyone can have, right? At the end of the day, being an entrepreneur is a skill. I think that there is a book from Roy Kiyosaki that said, why a student A work for a student C, right? But those students C, maybe they are not the most intelligent in the block, or the more they have the highest mark, but they have done something. They have gone through that process, right? Which is a painful process, and sometimes you feel that you're quitting. But what they're doing is you developing skill, that after this skill you develop, right? It doesn't matter what you do, you will approach everything with the same way of thinking, and that is what is gonna make you a good entrepreneur. So it's a skill base. It's like driving a car. The more you practice, the better you become. There is no science to this. There is no shortcut. There is no. You have to develop certain skill sets, right? And until some people can get it in 1 year, some people can get it in 2, some people get it in 5. Like you said, I didn't make my first million quick in 1 year. Well, neither my one, right? It took some of that. Some people take faster road and then learn the skills quickly. Some people take a little bit more time, depend on the industry. Sometimes this industry have particular challenges, right? But at the end of the day, is what you say, and it is about setting goals, about overcoming challenges, about being persistent and have resilience, but also know when to pivot, when to change the approach. Yeah. And this is tough because sometimes you are attached to a strategy, you attached to the product, you attached to emotionally attached to what it is, right? And if you don't pivot quickly and you don't change the approach, the resources finish, especially in tech. They evaporate so quickly that you have to be. So last question, Anita, what advice do you have for women entrepreneurs out there that want to start their own tech startup in the new world that we live today? What advice you have for these women? Because we are aware that they are facing a lot of challenges. There is less funding for women than for men out there. They are as smart, as capable as men, and somehow there is a bias around the venture capital world or the funding industry, that somehow the projects leading by women, they get less funded than projects leading by men. This is the reality. And so if you're women and you are in tech, like you have done it, it's like 3 times harder, 4 times harder. So what advice do you have for the women in tech?
Yeah, so I look at my journey and I never looked at myself. I did not start off by saying, oh, I'm a woman. I'm behind the power curve. All the men have an advantage. I just looked at it and said, you know what? I'm a person out here. I'm an entrepreneur first. I just happen to be a female entrepreneur. I'm going to find the things that I do best and make those things go towards my business. So in other words, I didn't have a stigma that said you can't. There was no person sitting on my shoulder going, oh, you can do this, but you're a woman, so you probably won't. You really have to get past that and just try your best and just be the entrepreneur, just like you were a guy. Yeah, there might be some things where venture capital doesn't come. In my case, we didn't look at venture capital. We had an inside company. We had some ways to do it, but there's other ways to do things. And if you use your know-how, and most women that are entrepreneurs in IT, I find they're very, very intelligent. They know what to do. They just need to trust in themselves and find mentors, or find other, look at the females that are in the business that you're in, get to know them, learn and find out, where did you get your funding? How did you do this? How did you overcome this? So joining, some entrepreneurial groups, or maybe just having a mentor if you're in an organization where you have females that have made it and are perceived to be at the top of their game. ask if they'll be a mentor for you, because oftentimes they will. And I do know that when I went to corporate, I had a female corporate manager that was my mentor, because she said, I know you're coming from the entrepreneurial world. It's very different in corporate. I was kind of rough around the edges, if you know what I mean, because I was used to telling people this is how it's going to be. And of course, corporate is a very different environment in some ways. So I think it's knowing how to use the resources that you know as a woman, what you do good, what is your best thing. But doing the networking, and there's plenty of women out there that have done it, or if there's men out there that can be your mentors, it doesn't just have to be women, or people that you trust that can help you go and get through this thing. Just trust that your instincts, what you got, what type of training you have. Just trust in that, and just let your artistic self and creative self, if you can, if you're in one of those businesses where you can do that, help you guide you towards your new future. And then, just a rise above. And I think that's the thing is, don't look at it as a contest against men. It's you're an entrepreneur competing against other entrepreneurs, and just do your best.
And maybe those setback, that resilience, that you cannot find funding, that maybe this environment is actually to helping you to get quickly to develop this skill that you have to develop anyways, right?
Because those people that say I can't, and as soon as they say I can't, it's like, well, no, you can. Are you going to do it? Find the funding. Go out and find, what have you done so far? And so if you ask yourself that and you said, it's just not there, I can't find it. How much have you gone out and tried? Who have you contacted? Start asking yourself that, because they can't and won't, and I don't know how. That attitude won't get you very far as an entrepreneur, and you'll find yourself closing your doors if you don't learn to adapt and change the attitude, because you have to keep a mindset. And I don't mean it's every day. Some days you're not going to feel like coming in. And I had days it's like, man, I just want to quit because this is just too hard and people are too, but I looked at what was at stake, and I made sure that I hung in there for the right reasons. I did my best. And then I tried to, when things got tough, I tried to make sure that I had people in my corner, or I tried to offload some of the solo entrepreneur things that I was doing to help have others, and to grow other people. And you don't gain anything by just keeping all the information to yourself. You need to grow a team, and you need to realize who those people are and choose wisely, because not oftentimes you grow that one person and they're out the door because they have other opportunities, but you just need to grow and pivot, as I've said before. So
where do you find this drive to keep
going? I guess it's
my
a
thing
passion.
was that when the toughest moment, when it was a lot of pressure, I'm not sure it was more than one. Yeah, how you get back?
Well,
where do you find the drive?
So I had friends and confidants I would turn to, and I said, I just can't take this another day. I'm just thinking of, this is it. I'll find some. And they said, well, there's nobody, look around you. There's no one else to take your position. Who do you think is going to take your position? The business fails if you're not there. And I said, okay, well, what would you do? And they'd give me some ideas. And then they said, well, think about what the business would be like without not having the business and not contributing, and what would happen. And I think back to those days, and I said, if I had quit that day, this wouldn't happen, this wouldn't happen, this wouldn't happen, this would have happened. It's like all the things that you see in your life. And I wouldn't be standing here today, Harry, and having this conversation with you if I had quit that day.
Full of knowledge.
Because
amazing.
Because I would have just, if I could have just wilted on the vine and gone home and just said, oh, poor me, and just not done, or said, oh, I might try this, but I just said, I'm too far along in this. I have to figure out a way. There's no one firing me. I'm not going to fire myself. I'm going to figure out how to persevere. And if you're getting so spun up and you're tired and your health is, taking a toll, reach out and get others to help you. But, it's going to take that inner strength. And I don't know what it is. And Harry, I know you've got it because just talking to you, I know you have it. But what is it that makes an opportunity? Entrepreneurs, I think in some respects are born, they can be developed over time, but a lot of people have to have that spirit. You have to have something that drives you, something that you're passionate about, because without the passion, I mean, people see that. And I think that's the biggest thing. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in business, it's whatever you do. And people go, oh, I see your passion. That's so great. I really love what you do. And, because that's infectious, and other people see that and go, I could do something too in my life, So it's, yeah, being an entrepreneur is something I think special and something you can develop over time. And you just got to keep going and make the right moves and learn to pivot and adapt as you can.
Last question, because when we're building the business, especially when we're doing the startup, right? It's what we call it a lot of negative baggage comes accumulated, right? Because obviously you're building the business, so you are trying to find the first client, and then the first client is not good. They don't pay you, and they pay you half, and then you deliver the product. So now you're angry with this client because it's not fair. You work really hard, and then you hire the first people, and because you don't have experience, these people are also not the best ones, and now you're doing all the work, and these people that are not doing that much. And then you feel that, oh my God, I'm working everything here and getting paid. I'm not getting paid myself. They're getting the money, and it's me who did all the work. So then a more negative bag get storage in your feeling, and you don't charge for everything. And if all this anger and all this frustration keep accumulating, you will project that to the company. So how
Oh,
important
sure.
is for the entrepreneur actually to work on themselves and surrender and have patience and have the understanding that everything that happened in the company. I remember that I was thinking, everything that happened in the company is my responsibility. I'm responsible 100% for everything that happened in my company, right? So if the clients did not pay me, I'm responsible. If the employees are not working, I'm responsible. So it's my fault, it's my responsibility, right? So how you find a way to channel all these frustrations and setback that you might have a lot, like everybody in business, how you channel this from negative to positive to give you the drive to keep going, right? And I think that people fail
Yeah.
because they cannot take it anymore, because they're or
Yeah.
anger and frustration, anger and frustration. Say, okay, that's it, I quit it, I cannot handle it anymore. So some way you find your way to accumulate all this experience, but actually to let that go, so that give you the energy to keep going. So how you manage to work on yourself? There was something special
Yeah.
that you were
So
doing?
I'm gonna come at this question from a little bit different angle because in addition to what I
Go
did
ahead.
in manufacturing, I'm now a resilience coach. And that largely came because of two health meltdowns I had after I actually left my company due to a major health meltdown that nearly took me out. And realizing through all that process, I realized I took a test in resiliency that was done by a company out of San Francisco. And one of the people that was helping me said, "You score off the chart on this. Do you know what that is?" And so I said, "No, what is resilience?" I said, "Well," he said, "Well, resilience is the ability to come back from setbacks and failures. And, it's not bouncing back, but it's coming back because you're going to do next time you come back from it, you approach it a little bit differently." So I teach people now about resilience in their life or in their business or whatever it is they're having, where they're having problems, because you have to have that drive. And resilience is a skill. Some people are born with more of it, but it is a skill that you can develop. And knowing how, so if you approach something and you see it coming the first time and you go, "Oh, there's that vendor that's not going to pay me," and you go, "Yeah, okay, am I going to have this next time, or what am I going to do next time?" I'm
There
going to
you
say, "Okay,
go.
here's my payment plan. Here's how I do this to make sure that you get paid and that you can pay your employees." So you change your perspective and you change maybe your approach or pivot a little bit, but you go, "Aha, I see that one coming again. Am I going to do that one again?" Because if it comes over again and you don't learn, you're going to do it again. So I think that's the thing, is developing resilience and changing your perspective and realizing that some of the things that really bothered you weren't such a big deal. I remember I had some customers, and it was a university, and the professor told him, "If your product is not 100% perfect, I'm not going to pass you." So that put a lot of pressure on me, and they were screaming at me because they had some kind of artifact or dot on their model, and they were screaming at me in 18-point font, "My model is horrible, blah blah blah." And those are days when I went, okay. And I kind of laugh now because I'm like, I just wanted to quit. And I remember that day, I'm like, I can't take one more of these. This one person was, the whole screen was filled with these big letters, and I won't tell you what it said, but it wasn't very flattering. And I just said to myself, okay, you just don't make a decision when you're all upset and when you're in a
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Go home, think about that, and then come back tomorrow and see. And then I realized, no, there's too much at mistake. This is just one customer. We're in the early stages. And so I was able to put it back into a different perspective and just keep going. And that gave me a little bit, sure, somebody had hit me the next day. This went wrong, or this person, doesn't do what they're supposed to. And all these things that you have to do, just put it in perspective. And if you need to get help or you need to talk to somebody, I found that just talking to somebody that I could trust was part of the organization, but was giving me some advice and saying, hey, just take it a day at a time. Somebody that already been an entrepreneur that said, you're going to encounter this. Just know that that's the truth. And just remember, if you quit today, just think about 5 years from now, where you'll be and where all these other people will be and what people will do without the product. How are you impacting people's lives? And because I look at that and I look at the ability to if you impact 5-10 lives today and they go out and impact 5 or 10 lives, before long we've impacted a lot of people. And I think that's, as an entrepreneur, they see our drive, our spirit, and what they can do. And if you have the ability within your organization to inspire that and go, it's amazing what your team will bring back to you when you just say, hey, I'll take your ideas. I like them. I may not take and implement all that you have to tell me, but I'll certainly listen to the ideas, and even the ones that sound a little bit kooky. But that one kooky one, like I mentioned, did save us a lot of time and energy. And, so it can be really worth it. But I think that's the big thing, is building your resilience, understanding what that is, and then just coming back and changing that perspective a little bit to say, was this is really as bad as I thought it was? Chances are, well, there will be some days when it's as bad as you thought, or maybe even worse than you thought, but chances are they're not. And everything is a learning experience when you're doing something new. And especially if you're in a field, no one's done it before. And, you just got to keep going and figure out what is going to make the difference and where you can get that edge. So I think it's exciting for people today that are in, doing entrepreneurial stuff. They're still out there. There's so much, and especially with AI now and all the things that we used to do by hand that can
Oh
be
my God! Do you remember how long it used to be to write a letter? A letter?
Oh, no, well, it's just not letters, but even reports, and even generating some of the stuff that we did, that I would be up till midnight generating reports and writing down manufacturing detail for my boss for the meeting at 7 in the morning. It would be 5 in the morning and I'm still not done. And he finally just told me, go to bed, go to bed. It's not that important. But because he knew I was staying up all night to do these things because I didn't have the help, and I didn't ask for enough help at that time. So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, so I think that's what I would suggest to
Anyway,
people.
and then I need 100% what you said, that don't take a decision when you're angry, or don't take a business decision, when you're angry and when you're in the bad state. You might be frustrated, you can be angry for what happened, maybe the client didn't pay you, whatever is it, but you breathe in, you think
Yep.
carefully, yeah, and then the next day you try to, what can you do to make sure it doesn't happen again, right? I remember
Right.
I learned this in the hard way. Every single decision that I took in the bad stage when I was angry, I lost money in all of them.
Mm-hmm.
In all of them, I lost money. There was no every single one that I took that was beneficiary for me, right? So I learned this the hard way. So I went to the point that, oh my God, I had to calm, and I had to think twice, and I cannot take these decisions, business decisions, so fast like this when something happened. Like, oh, if this client don't pay me, I don't want this client anymore, right? You just go out of this, and maybe he's not paying you, maybe because your product is not 100% there. Maybe he's not paying you because your staff didn't do the job. Maybe you have to find out what happened, right? Before
Yep.
and analyze. And then in my early days of entrepreneur, oh my God, I took few hits in that. So I learned a lot of way until what they analyze and say, oh my God, every time that I do this, I lose money. Every time that I do this, I lose money. I said, you know what? From now on, whenever it happen, we're gonna surrender and we're gonna analyze the next. Hey, what is it? And it's one of the most profitable things that I have done in my life since then, right? So
Yeah, yeah. Well, one of the things that I often think is what the perspective of the other person. So when you have a customer that is calling in and yelling, and I realize that the university students that would call in and they would be rather rude, I knew that they were up against some tremendous pressure, and I had actually talked to the organization about that, or vendors or clients organization, because I said, this is undue pressure. And they said, well, we can't do anything about it. It's just the way it is. It put undue pressure on all of us. But what it did do, I could have said, oh, that was just so horrible. But I look back and now, and I said, no, it made us better at what we did,
Exactly.
because we figured
It's
out some
pushing
way to
you,
make the
yeah,
product
to
better.
improve your
And
product,
then
yeah.
Right. So always remember that person that's on the other end of the phone that's screaming at you. You don't know. Maybe they have things happening at home. They have something, and I just say,
family
no.
problem, who knows, yeah?
I jerk. I say, not my monkey, but not my circus. And I just tell myself that to my head. In other words, not my problem, right? But I'll just sit there and I'll listen and I'll be
Yeah.
nice and kind and just go, and I understand. And sometimes when you understand their perspective and say, yeah, I hear you. It's not working right for you. I understand that. I'm sorry that, it's not the way we want it to be, but I think we all want to improve it and figure out a solution, right? And sometimes when you come across and you're understanding and empathetic with the person, not always, there's some people that it's just no. And you learn that as an entrepreneur too, as to when to spot the people that maybe you can communicate with effectively and maybe get through it at a different way. And there's some that are just like, yeah, there's just no way you're going to get through to them, and you just you just put on your best face and push forward.
So Anita, if somebody's listening this podcast and need help from you in terms of the resilience, they are in running the business right now. It doesn't matter if it's men or women, and they are in this state that, oh God, I cannot take this anymore. This is way too much, and they need a mentor. They need someone a resilience coach, right? That help them to go through this process and tell them that this is okay, this is the national business, and it's gonna become more of this, so they have to be prepared. So how they can find you and how can you help them? What's the process?
Well, yeah, so the best way, and I'm hoping, Harry, that you'll during the podcast sometime put up my links, but I have my website is anitapetty.com, and on there you can get links to a free download of my book. And you can also get links to talk with me on resilience. And I also have a program for resilience that you can see. I have a video for that. So you can get through my website for the free book download. We can get that to your viewers later. But would really enjoy seeing any of you. If you want to just drop me a line, that's great. I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely send us the resources and we'll put in the description of the video. Have been a pleasure to speak with you, a resilient coach that actually a tech entrepreneur, women tech entrepreneur, done it, been there, done it, yeah, and come out successful in the other side of the journey. It's very easy to say, but but it takes a lot to do it. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you so much to give so much valuable information to our audience. And
yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah, and for you guys listening to us in our podcast in Apple, Spotify, or following our social media, see you next time in our next episode of Unstoppable: How Brave Entrepreneur Break That Wall and Achieve the First Million. Bye for now.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.